Hey folks, this is Steve Johnson, Open Maw Productions, and we're going to just take a quick kind of walk through the first level of my little freeware game called Save the Astronaut. Just make sure we're capturing here before I continue and embarrass myself. Come on now. There it is. There it is. All right. Do one more check from in the game. And we're working. All right. Beautiful. So, Save the Astronaut 3D. It's done in the CGI DOS style. So, if you're familiar with old DOS computers, CGA color was the standard for a long time, and it was basically 16 colors, which is why everything is very limited in its color palette. There's not a lot of color in this game. In point of fact, there's a lot of gray because the 16 color CGA graphics palette is actually tremendously difficult to work with. It's not a good set of gradients or anything like that. Uh, but I wanted to kind of do it as a challenge, and I also wanted to do something that was kind of simpler in design. My main game project is a very complicated game project. It's very ambitious in its scope. So I wanted to kind of get my feet wet with Easy FPS Editor, specifically with something simpler, and that's what this is. Now, as you can see from the previous videos I posted, this is coming along. We've got a lot more texture work going on here. There are a few things I need to fix, like these pipe segments. They're not, they need to be cube mapped so that they align properly from either side. You see, they're aligned that side, not this side. So we've got crates, and we've got signs, and we've got airlocks and ceiling lights and blue barrels and things like that. It's much more brought to life than it was previously. No enemies yet. My associate Chris Bowman is going to be doing some music. He's a very talented musician. He's going to be coming in to do some ad lib slash OPL synth sounding music for the menu and the levels and things like that, and that'll really bring it to life. I've got a pretty good set of sound effects. In terms of design, all three, or excuse me, all five levels are mapped out. Obviously, they'll need a little bit of refining as I'm going along, but they're all done. The texture set for the game is done. The prop sprites and enemy graphics and weapon graphics are all done. And in fact, this laser pistol is a little bit outdated. My goal is to get all of that in place and working properly in the next few days. And then it'll basically be done. And then it'll be released for free. And the project itself will be released in two forms. It'll be released as a closed, drop it and play it experience, and then I'll also release the project files for those who are interested to take a look at it and see how things are done. Like I said, this is not a complex project at all, but the point was to kind of create a simple, almost a template for the Easy FPS Editor community for newcomers to be able to look at and see how, all of it comes together, from scripting to sound effects to graphics to design of the levels and things like that. Very basic, but that's how you really begin to understand things, I think, is to start with a basic version of it. The five levels that are included are it's four main levels and a boss level. This one's they're all pretty short. This one's a little bit longer, just to kind of get you introduced to everything in the game. And I'm trying to avoid being too mazy and such, but it is a limit of doing a Wolfenstein style level. Is that you're on one level and everything is 45-degree angles, and again, the goal was to adhere to a style visually and auditorily, much like Save the Astronaut, the original side scroller that I released in 2020, was a very lavish NES style game, almost to a fault. It would actually be kind of interesting to give somebody the code and the graphics from that and see if they could actually fit it onto an NES cartridge and make a genuine NES game out of it. I think you could. You could get it pretty close anyway. Uh, so these are explosive barrels, and they're orange instead of blue, so that kind of gives you that indication along with the hazard stripe. And these are secret walls. Right now, it's just a level block. It's not a 3D model, but it will be a 3D model in the final game because that's how you're able to do that, is to set up a decoration as a 3D model and have it with an animation of some kind, an animated texture to destroy it. So you'll be able to shoot the barrel and blow the secret open and get some goodies in there. Your big mission is to reach the escape pods in the final level, and along the way rescue crew as you go. At the bottom of the screen there, you can see that black bar. That's your status messages will come up in there, so it'll tell you what you're picking up and things like that. I'm not doing anything too complicated with terminals or anything like that. There will be an end of level screen, which is not, to my shock, actually, is not a default of Easy FPS Editor. There's no end level stat screen. You have to make one from scratch, and that's a little convoluted. But it's there are examples out there, and I've figured out pretty much how to make that work. It's a question of just counting objects in the level and doing a little bit of division to get the numbers. Animated textures, there's a few of these. Again, emphasizing the CGA graphic style, also trying to keep in mind what the hardware limitations of 92, 91, 93, that era was. You didn't have a lot of room for graphics. And if you look at the games that I'm emulating, things like Catacomb 3D, Wolfenstein 3D, more Catacomb and Hover Tank 3D, really. Not a lot of textures in those games. Maybe a dozen or just a few over a dozen in Catacomb 3D. It's a very limited shareware experience, which is what this is intended to be. So we're approaching kind of the end of the level now. I haven't put in locked doors or keys yet. That there will be in this game 2 key cards that you can find, a red and a blue, and along with the secrets and things like that. And here's another secret area, trying to really teach the player this in the first level. Just the explosive barrels are force multipliers against enemies, but they're also good for opening up secret passages. So, and I'm also trying to do this in a style that is, and this probably sounds strange, but if you have kids, if you're an Easy FPS Editor designer and you have kids and you want to give them something that's kind of child friendly to play, that's what Save the Astronaut is for. It's a non-violent first person shooter. It's the laser weapons vaporize slime monsters. We're keeping it. There's no violence in the you're not blowing gore and chunks and things off of aliens and humans. It's a very kind of cartoony Saturday morning vibe, which is what the original game was intended to be as well. It's something that children can enjoy. It's kind of sad to me that that particular aspect of gaming culture has been sort of lost. I mean, you don't really see a lot of really good child-friendly games anymore. It's either really, really, really juvenile and saccharine, or it's hardcore, borderline X-rated adult type stuff. Like, there's no real middle ground anymore. So, kind of a Chex Questy inspired vibe here. Something that kids can enjoy, and it's not totally cheesy. All right, so we'll step through into the exit, but I'll just say it right now. The next level is not on par, but we'll continue on here. Got a little water puddle there. I need to adjust the color on that, and then this gargantuan wet floor sign. Trying to get everything to scale properly 1:1. If you look here at the pixel scale, everything's in the same resolution, and it's all being scaled to the environment equally. So some of it's just drawn too big, I think. That's a big wet floor sign. One of the other things that I'm going to introduce here, I'm working on it today, in fact, is we've got these ceiling lights here, which are very basic. I've already got rotating alarm lights that go in synchronicity with the alert stuff. But these little ones here, I'm creating a second one that actually will randomly blink, and I'll plop a few of those in here just to give it a little extra activity in the environment, you know, make it just a little bit more alive. They probably wouldn't have done that back in 92. I mean, if you look at Catacomb 3D, there's nothing. There are no decorations in the maps in Catacomb 3D. It's just blocks for the walls and then enemies. So if this were to be like put into a DOS compatible engine, like a proto Wolfenstein 3D raycasting engine, it would be a pretty advanced DOS first person shooter for its year of release. So, all right, we'll continue on here. And as you can see, also going here towards the elevator, this is kind of the updated door. I want to tweak it just a little bit more. It's sideways now because the door's open sideways like that. The caution is on the side of the door. We got this nice blinking exit texture, and right now I'm using just the default level exit terminal input that's in the game, but I'm going to replace it, like I said, with a stats screen. Right now you just plop into the next map. In this map I haven't done anything. It's using the first texture I created for this, and I got the basic layouts all done. One of the things that I did do, which I experimented with, Easy FPS Editor is very basic because it was essentially a sequel engine to Raycasting Game Maker. That's kind of what it was, and people are taking it much further than that. If you look in the Discord and certainly explore on YouTube, you'll find some very impressive game projects in the works that are really pushing this to a whole other level. There's a lot of great ones out there. But the one thing that is very difficult to kind of work with is pre-planning of level design. Like inside the editor, you don't have copy and paste. You can't undo things. You kind of have to just manually erase things and redo them. So it gets very hairy when you start getting into more complicated multi-level designs and you're using modifiers and things. A lot of those are very hard to read because the icons are very small for everything, and there's no way to like do a modified, I wish there was, like if every modifier and every texture had a little editor icon that you could modify so that you could tell yourself exactly what this is and what it does. I wish the texture browser was a little bit bigger, personally. If it was about double the size it is so that you could really see the texture tiles in the editor, that would be helpful. But as a result, like level design and stuff, I was actually going into PaintShop Pro 7 and locking the grid to 1 pixel square and setting a grid of 1 pixel for 64 by 64 image, because the level layouts in this are 64 by 64 blocks. So you can doodle in your paint program of choice with a locked grid at 64 by 64 pixels and really understand what your level needs to look like before you try to lay it out in the editor. And then you can pixel by pixel replicate it from your image in the editor, and you'll get WYSIWYG. You'll get exactly what you painted in the editor. And that's what I did here. All of these levels are done exactly that way. I don't believe I can actually exit this level at this moment in time. Let me see if I can. Did I hide it? Nope, I didn't. Every level begins and ends with an elevator like this, and just kind of to make it stylistically consistent, stuff like that. As you can see on this level, there's one texture for the whole map. That was just to get the layout done. I didn't even have the textures ready to go at that point. Each level will kind of have a pretty unique feel to it, especially when we get the music and everything going. When you can see just by looking at this without decorations and things, it's very, very bland. But when you get those those decorations going, you really feel it come to life. So I think that's all I've got for now. I think I've rambled long enough. I hope this video was educational and entertaining, and if you're a member of the community, I just want to give a shout out to all of you. You're brilliant. You're talented. If you've taken a step into game design, you're already ahead of the curve. Don't give up. I know things can be very frustrating sometimes, but you're really, if you're passionate about it and you stay with it and you stay faithful to it, just like a relationship, if you stay faithful to it, the rewards are incredible. So, with that said, hey, join us on the Easy FPS Editor Discord. There's actually three big ones now that are growing every day, and come see the incredible things that are being done. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and we'll see you later.